But Florio, today you're going to talk about some players that are finally going to break out, and they're going to get it right. And if they don't break out, we are going to tweet out not only your address, but your phone number, because so many of us fantasy managers are in the biggest conundrum of all, because we had high expectation for these guys, and then they've completely fallen flat. But you say this week is the week that they finally have the bounce back. So kick me off with your first guy.
Yeah, the first one is someone that I have on fantasy teams of my own. It is Panthers wide receiver DJ Moore, and I'm not valuing him as a wide receiver 1 or even more as a wide receiver 2 this week. I have him as my wide receiver 26, but it is a really good matchup as the Falcons have allowed the 4th most receiving yards per game to wide receivers this season, and the Falcons have kind of been a get-right game for whoever they've been playing this season. And I know it's easy to look at the Panthers offense and say, well, Robbie Moore is the player you want to start here. But on the year, Robbie Moore has just 2 more targets than DJ Moore, and DJ Moore is actually seeing about 25 air yards more per game than Robbie Anderson this year. And this is the first really good matchup for Moore on the year. The Panthers had a pretty tough schedule, at least as wide receivers go, the first 4 weeks. So this is the week, and if DJ Moore does not have a good game, then I'm really going to be worried and looking to get him out of my lineup moving forward. But I think this week, he's a wide receiver 3 or a flex play with a lot of upside.
Yeah, I've always had this problem with one of my prominent teams, the battle of the DJs. I have DJ Moore, DJ Chark. Which one do you lean towards this week?
I would go with DJ Chark there. At least he has a good matchup as well, and at least he has been productive this season, whereas DJ Moore has only had really 1 good game. But I would try to find a way to get both in my lineup.
All right. I got Will Fuller too, so we'll calm down. We'll talk about that off the air. I know this is selfish of me to interject, but some people might have that question.
Rank, this is not all about you. It's about the fans. It's about all of us. All right, Florio, I want to ask you about your next guy. And this is a guy who I think has been the biggest bust of the season because there was so much hype around him going into the season. And then you look at last week's game and he wasn't even targeted. Tell me who this is and who is finally going to break out. And if not, all of us are going to lose our minds.
Yeah, I thought he would break out last week, and it did not happen. It is Cardinals running back Kenyan Drake. He had a good matchup last week, and like you said, Kimmy, he just was not able to make the most of it. But this week, he's going up against the Jets, who have allowed the 8th most fantasy points per game to running backs this season. And to me, this just feels like the week that everyone is kind of like, all right, it's done with Kenyan Drake. He flopped last week in a great matchup, and that's it. We're going to get him out of our starting lineups. But to me, it feels like a week where the Cardinals are going to be playing with a lead, in my opinion. I think throughout the whole game, they were trailing last week, which led to Edmonds getting the targets, and Edmonds scored that touchdown after Drake had already left the game. I just think this is one where they'll have the lead throughout, and they'll rely on running the ball a lot more with Kenyan Drake. And I'm hoping he finds the end zone, and I think this is the week he finally tops 15 fantasy points.
Yeah, this really does have the feeling of a lot of people reaching out to us Sunday night, Monday morning, complaining that they benched Kenyan Drake. Oh, now he does it, and he has a game similar to what the Bengals RB1 did last week, where he had 3 touchdowns. So I'm with you. I know I filmed the PSA, and in the heat of the moment, I said we're benching Kenyan Drake, but I want to say for the record, I would probably be playing him.
All right, so hopefully, fingers crossed for all of us fantasy managers who are on our last string with Kenyan Drake. But Florio, give me your third guy. This one is at the tight end position, one that's obviously really volatile in fantasy football. All tight ends are either really good or they're not. Tell me who this last guy is.
Yeah, Hunter Henry it is Hunter Henry to start of the Los Angeles Chargers, and he fits that tight end kind of very up and down profile like many other tight ends, but I think this is a week to get him in your lineup. The Saints have allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game this season to the tight end position. Justin Herbert has thrown about 20% of his passes to tight ends this year, and the Chargers are banged up right now. Austin Eckler, who is a huge target in the passing game, is not going to be playing. Mike Williams missed last week, and he is questionable for this game. And it is a game that it's in New Orleans where a lot of fantasy points could be scored. I would not be surprised if the Chargers are trying to keep up with Drew Brees and the Saints offense, so I would expect them to throw a little bit more. And again, the opportunity is there, and it's a great matchup. The Saints are allowing over 80 yards per game, and they've allowed 5 touchdowns in 4 games to tight ends. So I just think it is the perfect recipe for fantasy success this week for Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked about this earlier in the show about starting Justin Herbert. And I love that. And I really do believe that that's a fun stack. That's a Herbert, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert stack that you can do in daily too. And so I would take a look at that.
I love it. You know, it's really interesting to look at Justin Herbert because he got called up to be the starting quarterback because of that Tyrod Taylor injury just moments before kickoff. And then he's gone on, and they've actually had a pretty darn tough schedule, right? They played the Kansas City Chiefs. Last week, he went head-to-head with Tom Brady. And a lot of us had, you know, really good positive things to say because he really was head-to-head with Tom Brady. Now he looks to take on another OG and another GOAT in the game of football in Drew Brees. So, you know, really exciting things for Justin Herbert. I think he is proving week after week that he deserves to be the starting quarterback. And I know all three of us have made an argument that if you are looking for a streamer or another quarterback for your fantasy team, Justin Herbert could be that guy. So I'm really excited to see this matchup. You know, I think the Saints have kind of fizzled out this season, which is a little bit surprising, and their defense hasn't been so hot. So I'm kind of pulling for Justin Herbert on this one.